because it goes for a long time, and it's the best microphone as well.
Okay, I can hear that.
So you happy?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No problem.
And Alfred, you read all the info
Yes, I read
and
all
so
the
on.
info.
I don't know if you've got any questions about the study or what I'm doing.
No, I am interested in the outcome of the study more than I'm interested in your topic. Obviously, there's a big interest in the topic, but I would be more interested in the outcomes to see what the outcomes in that and the model that you're going to design.
Okay.
For your
Okay.
kids. I'm really excited about that.
Okay. Essentially, what I wanted to start off doing today is really just talk with you about the way in which we've looked at the scopes of practice in the regulations, and then whether those cover what we think child and youth care workers should be doing, what else they should be doing, and your experience of and thoughts about what is child and youth care work in South Africa.
Okay.
What is at these two different levels.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to sort of talk auxiliary and professional almost every time, because we can't really just talk across the board.
All right.
And I know that distinction isn't always
Clear.
Yeah, but it's, I think for purposes of the study, it's quite important to look at the fact that there are these different expectations of these two groups. And I think, I mean, you would probably agree, the last thing we should be doing is expecting of our auxiliary level workers the kind of thing that we expect of other professionals as well. So it's really trying to understand what do people see as being the work of our child and youth care workers, really, which I know that you are absolutely full-time interested in, if I can put it that way.
Okay.
So just to start off with, and I don't know whether you would like to just renew your acquaintance with the scopes of practice,
Okay.
but whether you think that they are well set out and actually cover what people do in the different areas. No, I'm just looking for it here. Sorry, man. I took it out of here to photocopy the other day. There we go. That's
If
yeah, but anything. I mean, just
no. Let me just put this one, and we can come back to this.
Sure,
If you don't
sure.
mind. Let me just.
sure.
You know, more when I look at child and youth care and the emergence of child and youth care historically, I think about it in an historical way, and I think about how did child and youth care blow over to South Africa and where it started, and when I look at the history of child and youth care work, and I look at how it started in the UK after the First World War, and how it started in South Africa during the Boere, I think SA Kinderhuis, being the older children's home, was already working with children, but the concentration of the work there, in terms of that, where we see that in the UK it was children who was not orphaned really, but they were children who had to be looked after while parents was fighting the war, or mothers was working in the factory where they were making the guns for the war. In South Africa it was almost similar to that, where children was without parents, and then they were put together. So it was then a case of anybody who was available. Like the church, particularly the Afrikaans church, still have the same concept of where it is anybody who's available to look after children, as what they had in the past. And so you see organizations like ACVF who started Afrikaanse Christelike Vrouwenvereniging, and their focus was to look after vulnerable children, to care for them. And then after that emanated the whole thing of the welfare arm of the NG Church, which is now run as Badisa. So that history is something that I always have to rely on to understand the progress that we have made in the field of child and youth care, and where it is now, and what is it that, not what child and youth care do, but also what is expectation of people in the communities, or what a child care worker should be doing. Further to that, the understanding that child rescue work is a profession hasn't permeated throughout society. So you don't hear people speaking freely of what the who childcare workers, who these people are, what they do, but they only know, understand that these people look after children. And so child rescue workers, the name now wasn't always child rescue workers. When I came into the field, we had 3 name changes. We were called for Sorgensbeamtes, which is translated into English as a care worker. We were also
care official, actually.
Care official, yeah. Then we were also called auxiliaries. There was a time when we called some auxiliary workers, something. And so this name was constantly being changed because we didn't know what to call these people. Which reminds me, when I think of those things, it reminds me of what happened because people didn't have a name. I mean, you still hear people talking about nannies, people talking about carers, people having all these different names for people looking after children. Then, I'm going long to history now, sorry.
No, fascinated.
And then also you find the thing of the blurring of the lines because people will ask you, but if you say you look after children, what does somebody do that works at the creche? What is the difference in between somebody working at the creche and somebody working with children? But the context is different. For instance, I had a director who said to me that she did child rescue work, and I said to her, so tell me about your child rescue work. And when she spoke to me, she was doing au pairing. She was looking after 2 children in the family home, and she said she was doing child care, but that wasn't child care the way we are being taught. So now fast forwarding to where we are now, and we look back, and one has to say that there was an organization like the NSCW who started in 1975 with the intent of saying this is a field that cannot be left unregulated. And the wisdom for me in that was, Mel, that the unregulated stuff for me was the fact that the people who was working with children were working with a vulnerable group of children, but they who were the vulnerable the people who were working with the vulnerable children didn't have the skills. Because remember I said in the beginning that it was a group of people who just said we need someone to look after these kids. And so now you have these people who now in 70, when SW started, I think one of the things they thought about was to say that we cannot leave people who work with the children, with vulnerable children, just like that, on their own. They need to have skills and need to have certain competencies in order for them to work with these vulnerable children. So from there, obviously, there was a move to make the field, to professionalize the field in various ways, by providing training, providing some supervisions, training leaders, training your managers, and all those different things were put in place in order for the field to become more organized. I wouldn't say professional, I would say more organized, so that there can be a standard of services. That the services that young people get who's vulnerable can then provide that services. So now when we look at where we are now in the year 2019, first of all we can see that the field has made some nice strides as a field. And I want us to say as the field. There's other issues outside of the field, but in the field there's been some good strides being made. For instance, we now know that we have a scope of practice that gives us guidance in terms of what child workers can do in the field of operations. Now, when I look at the scope of practice, one has to say that if we look at the field, can we see the scope of practice being, we use a word in the government, being implemented, being experienced by those who are service recipients of the work that we do? It's a question that I always wonder, because the translation of theoretical knowledge into a practical skill is a particular skill that you have, that you'll be able to translate what you've learned in theory to be able to go. What we have to make sure is that our field of practice is distinct in terms of scope of practice from other social professions. I think that, and I know that there was various research conducted to say that this is a profession on its own with its unique identity, unique way of work. So it means that our scope of practice is correctly allocated. So the scope of practice, or the scope of practice allows childcare workers to be working in other environments. because the knowledge that you have can be applied in schools, can be applied in hospitals, can be applied in prisons, can be applied in any other setting. If you have the skill to be able, the knowledge, and to turn the knowledge into a skill to be able to apply. So, me, the scope of practice is clear. What child cookers can do, what they should be able to do if they're the relevant, if they're the right qualification, and then also what we also have to understand is that when we say the scope of practice, is also a line in to say that when you are a professional childcare worker, this is what you should be doing, and then also in the scope, it should be the same if you are an auxiliary childcare worker, this is what you should be comfortable in doing. That must also be, that's also distinct in terms of the field. It doesn't create a barrier for progress, but it just categorize what the key responsibilities would be for the people in the different categories, professional and
Can I just ask you, do you think that the way in which that distinction is made, that you're saying is people would be comfortable at this level and comfortable at that level, being able to do those things, do you think that distinction between the auxiliary and the professional is a reasonable one as far as the scope of practice is concerned?
You see, Merle, again, the scope of practice is something that you have written down. What I would be interested in, what I would, looking at the scope of practice and looking at the two categories of work. That's why I say it mustn't create a boundary. It must. For instance, one of the things that scope of practice says that a auxiliary child worker cannot be working alone in the life space. That for me is yes, that is right, because that person with the professional qualification must be around to supervise, like in our language, to be online and supervise the child worker. But will that be a reasonable expectation to have so many professional child educators available to be able to always be in the life, in the space, in the life space where the child worker operates and functions, which maybe that might not be a real reality. But what do we then do to make sure that our auxiliary child workers are not exposed to be, let me use the word, unsupervised without a professional person being around them to be able to provide guidance and direction for them and mentor them even in the case. What I would like to see, however, is that the supervision model that is proposed by Jack Phelan, where you categorize your supervisors in different categories, and to the level where the supervisor become more of a consultant than an online supervision. If we can organize it like that, then the number of professors you have available won't be issue, because if your child crews at a certain level all come up to the level where they can be looking after themselves as it were and only consult with you, then it's going to be able to work.
Alfred, when you're saying that I like where you start with the history and tease it out like it was like anybody who's available or anybody who is moved to do the work, but there's no skills and stuff like that. I mean, what do you see as being the issues that actually just reject that thing? What do you see as being the essential difference between like professional at any level, child and youth care work, and that work that people were doing from their hearts?
It's a very interesting question, but I must say I don't think there's a simple answer to that question, because it's quite complex, because people would say that it doesn't matter if I have qualification but I have the heart to do it. But my response is always my response, and my response is always, will you go to a doctor who's not qualified to operate on you? And most people say no. So for me, that is that people might have the heart, but they don't have the knowledge. They might respond or react in a way that is harmful to the person that they're working with. So I would say that for me, it is an application that I've got the knowledge. It's application of the knowledge in the setting where the knowledge is required for me to be able to apply. So the difference is that you cannot now say that somebody come into child need care work because they have the heart for it but they have no qualifications. I wouldn't say that. That I will, although some people Some people would say, but if you have the heart, you can work. But I'm saying, no. My response will always be, would you go to a doctor who's got no qualifications, but he's been working, he can do the job? And most people say no.
And what do you think that knowledge actually brings for people?
You know what? Knowledge, first of all, we all know that knowledge empowers people. But most important, knowledge makes you confident in what you're doing. Because you know that this is what I know. If I apply this in this way, it's going to give you the desired results. If you don't have the knowledge, you won't be able to help young people achieve their intended outcomes for their lives. Because you don't have the knowledge of how to help them get to their lives. You can put them on a path, the path can go nowhere. So if you have the knowledge, it makes you confident in I know how I need to address this, how I need to respond to this situation, and how I need to help this young person or family to achieve their outcomes.
There's so much to say. It's just so interesting, all of it, because like I'm just thinking about what you're saying now and thinking now, do you see something in child and youth care work in South Africa that is any different from what you know of or read about elsewhere?
If you talk about elsewhere, are you talking internationally?
Yeah.
I can tell you, Mel, that this is African child and youth care practices.
And you've had exposure.
I want to come to that.
No.
Our child and youth care practices in this country doesn't have to feel second to any other child care practice in the whole entire world. I mean, as you know, I had the opportunity to go and work for 6 weeks in the United States of America, and the way the program works was that people had to observe, and on day 2 I asked them that I cannot learn by observing, but I can learn by doing. So they allowed me then to work in the life space of young people. And the way I interacted with young people attracted the attention of the director of the facility, who at the end, because I questioned some of the practices, but I did not only question the practice, but I also gave them possible solutions how to address some of the issues. And they found it very amazing that in South Africa we could think in that way about caring for young people. Doesn't matter what kind of young person it is. That, I mean, at the end of the day, they wanted me to stay on and to become an employee of them, but I said to them, no, I can't do that. So that for me gives me the satisfaction that our practices in South Africa is on par with what happens around the world. And if I may say something, might sound strange, but if I say that as a young profession, group, we are still doing research, we are still developing new things. So in the next 5 to 10 years, we will be the maker of developing new approaches in child and youth care work. That's why I see us as a country going in terms of where we are right now with this young and vibrant group of young people coming through in the field, that we're going to be developing new models of care for children that the world will want to come and learn from, and also want to implement in their country. One interesting fact, for instance, is that somebody from America said to me that the way they care and control their children, they depend on medicine and not on interaction. Because all the kids that I encountered in America was children that was on one or other medication, and that is the way how they manage behavior. It's not through what we know, what we taught about behavior management. They've got the medical way of managing behavior. So I think our standard child care work is on par with the rest of the world.
And can you say anything about what it was that you, like in that instance, what did you do differently from what were those South African skills and expectations and approach in the profession that you brought?
You know, well, I can. Let me say that child care work is about relationships. So I'm going to share with you two incidents that where I asked a question and they had to think about the answer. And it was this one young boy was in a class about 12 years old, and in the morning when he came in, he was a bit unruly, unmanageable, and what they call the coach, what we will call a child care worker, put him into a hold, like the part hold, put him into a part hold, and the boy fell asleep. And he slept for about 40 minutes on the floor, got up, and when he was awake, 20 minutes later he was again in a fight, and he was again and again was in a hold, and again fell asleep. And then after the second time, I called the child care worker and I said to him, have you noticed something? And he said to me, what? He said to me, what notice? I said, no, have you noticed that when you hold this boy falls asleep, which means this boy lacks closeness. So when the boy wakes up, let me sit next to him. Allow him to sit next to him, so I can just be an adult close by to him. And they conferred amongst themselves, and they agreed that I will be sitting at his table in his class every day. And his behavior changed completely. Just having that adult close to him, his behavior changed completely. And they couldn't believe that in that week, that after that incident, that boy didn't have another incident of where he had to be put in a hole because of his behavior. So, and for them it was like, how can this be? And there was 3 people in the class. We have a teacher, we have an assistant teacher, and we have a coach. And there were 15 children in the class. And this one boy was only needed somebody who was close to them, who was close to him. And his behavior changed. And they couldn't believe it. That happened on the Tuesday. They couldn't believe on the Friday that boy, since that Tuesday till the Friday, didn't have one more incident of misbehavior.
And let's go on to the second one until we've gone through this one, okay. Because it's an interesting example. Because are you saying that what you felt was different about the South African approach was that it's relational? It's recognizing that children need
to relate, to
be interacted with.
You have to, yeah. I found it. I mean, the second incident is more profound, because here we had a 16-year-old child was in a class and he was a loner. So he didn't interact with the other children in the class. What happened is that in America, the classrooms has got an ensuite toilet. So the children don't leave the classroom, they just go into the back and there's a toilet in the back. But for this particular boy, whenever he goes to the toilet, the class monitor when he comes out, will go back into the toilet. And so I saw this happening, and I asked the teacher, but why do you send him in after this boy comes out? So he explained to me that this boy always does something in the toilet. Always does something in the toilet. And at this particular time of the year, at that particular time of the year in America, it was the long holiday. And so this was a senior class, and so they were going to go on a camp with the school for a week. So the senior class was going to go on a school camp for a week. This was communicated to all the children. They were all excited about going on the camp. But this one boy, this loner, and so it happened while I was in the class that he went to the toilet. And then the monitor went in as per norm and came out and reported to the teacher that they found that this boy has thrown dacha all over the zincs. And so obviously, he was called to the teacher, and he was told that, you know what, your behavior has now disqualified you from the camp. And I said, okay guys, tell me a bit more about this boy. Who is this boy? He said to me, he's alone, he stays with his father. His father sells the drugs and all those things. I said, okay, let us just unpack this. This boy, he knows there's a camp coming up. He knows that when he goes to the toilet, somebody's going to come check up on him. That's what you guys have told me. He said to me, yes. I said, now think logically. Why do you think he will, knowingly that somebody's going to come and check up on him, we'll throw the dacha there. Why do you think he would do that? Why do you think he would do that? And they looked at me like, are you... I said, number one, so they couldn't answer me because they couldn't. But I said to him, if you know the cops is there, I'm still going to do the wrong thing. Because the cops must catch you. I said, this boy don't want to go on the camp. He's a loner. So he just thinks the easier for me to get out of this thing is to do something that takes me out of the camp.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go to the camp.
Yeah.
Yet you want him to relate to the other children in the class.
Yeah.
Because at home there's something wrong at home.
Mm.
There's something wrong because he's got a single, he's living with his father sells drugs. This is where he gets his drugs, that's where he gets the dacha from. But the thing is, he needs to connect with someone.
Mm.
So why would you play the game that he wants you to play? And that is excluded from everything.
Mm. Mm.
And they were like looking at me and saying, but what do we do? I said, no, take him on the camp.
Mm. Mm.
Take him on the camp.
Mm.
Why would you take him on the camp?
Mm. Mm.
Because there's obviously something bigger at play here than just this dacha throwing thing. Because logically you cannot, if he knows someone's going to come check up, why would he throw it? And they said, literally, there were three guys, the teacher, assistant teacher, and the childcare worker. They literally sat back in their chairs and looked at me and said to me, but we can't. I said, no. This boy's punishment is he's going to go on the camp.
Mm.
Change the game for him.
Mm.
Because playing his game is not going to help him.
Mm.
And you wanted to help him.
Mm.
So change the game for him.
Mm.
And you make it clear to him that we are taking on the camp.
Mm.
And then on the camp, you assign an adult to him.
Mm.
Who's going to look after him.
Mm.
And it's going to change. And I don't know what the outcome is because I had to leave. But those are the kind of things that I then inculcated into. Another incident is again a 14-year-old boy who smashed his whole room. I mean, he smashed his whole room up in the management of this. It was at another center. And the manager of this place was up in arms. They called an emergency meeting, invited me to come to the meeting. I was a staff member. And they had a meeting, and then I had to go and get quotations to fix the room up for the boy. And I asked if I may contribute to the discussion. They said to me, yes. And I said to them, so who smashed the room? Emma, who smashed the room? Said the boy. And I said, and now you're going to spend $2,000 to fix the room. So what are we teaching the child here? Mm. And they were like, but what must we do? I said, no. He's got no bed. He smashed the bed up. He's got no cupboard and no windows. Only thing we do is we make sure that we take all the broken glass out of the window so he can't cut himself. Take all the broken glass, pick up all the glasses. He must take all the wood that's broken to put it in the storeroom. He's got a mattress, sleep on the mattress. Mm. Because if you're now going to go, because they were sitting in a meeting and wanted to go and buy a bed and going to get the window fixed and all this, and they said, no. Why? What are we teaching the boy? And so again, they were like, because there's no consequent behavior, there's no consequences for behavior, I say. And so the boy's is not being taught anything. And so they had to go outside of themselves to think about this, and they decided, and they called the boy in. And the manager and the director then decided that we are not buying you a bed, we're calling your mother. If your mother wants to buy you a bed, she can buy, but you're not buying your bed. Mm. Because this is what you've done, you've caused it, you've damaged it. So, And so for me it was those kind of things, and obviously it went up to whatever the powers it be, and they felt that, you know what, I can come. But yeah, but that is...
But what do you think that it is about South African child and youth care work that allowed you as a child and youth care worker from South Africa to think differently about it? What is it?
First of all, I said earlier, is that the knowledge gained through training and the correct application of the knowledge. You know, I always make this when I used to train child care, I always say, you know, we look at examples, and the one example I can clearly remember that it is in one of our manual training modules when I was teaching was the story of how will a child worker handle the situation. A child comes from school, you're in the kitchen, busy in the kitchen, He walks past you, go to the room, doesn't greet you, go to the room, slam his door. What do you do? That is a. Now you have to think about scenario. Say, what will you do? And all the child groups go through that exercise. I would always say, remember, you cannot wait for Johnny to come home. You in the kitchen, he goes to his room, closes the door, kicks the door, and then you now know, okay, this was in a book. What did the book say? You cannot do that. Because book knowledge only gives you a basic understanding of what can possibly happen and how to respond to that. Yes. But for you to wait for that incident in the book to happen, it's not going to happen. Because now you want to go back and think, oh, in the class, they did say Johnny come from school, he didn't greet me, he went to his room, slammed the door, so I must do A. That's not going to happen. But Johnny's going to come home from there, he's going to be upset, and you have to intervene with him. But you cannot say, okay, the book says, no, you have to see what does the situation present for you in order for you to respond in the most appropriate manner for this child. Doesn't apply to all children, but for this child, that is how it will happen. So I think, Mel, for me, it is about, and I don't understand something to me, don't be so, don't go too theoretical, but I just think that it is the knowledge you get from your training, no matter where you train, but it is the correct application of the knowledge and how you look at the situation, understanding that we work with individuals and not with a blanket approach for all children. And so you cannot use one approach and the same approach for another child. You must be able to individualize your responses to children because each child responds differently to such circumstances. Secondly, Mo, why I respond differently is that I think about my practice. So when I've done with the day's work, when I was an online child worker, I used to think about my practice and say, okay, so what happened today? What went well, what didn't go well? And how can you improve what you have done? How do you make sure that you don't do the same thing tomorrow? In the same situation, but you have to use another avenue. And then also I also take one of the things I've learned in the beginning of child EQ work is that the stuff that is taught in child and EQ work actually works. Because I tested it. And I tested it on my own children. I test the stuff to see. So it works on my children. It can work, but it is just how you apply it. It's about the application. It cannot just be what the book says. So you have to look at it. And so this is one of the things I want to just to revert. One of the things that I fell into when I worked at the secure care facility is that most of the staff there said, and you could recall this, most of the staff there said that the stuff that NSW is training us doesn't work for the children. And I fell into that belief system to say we must get training from somewhere else, and you know what? But I've realized it doesn't matter where a child is. Human development is the same. Human development and the hierarchy of needs of Maslow doesn't matter. It applies the same. If you feel insecure, you will behave in a certain way. If you feel secure, you will achieve the next level of development. But you have to get it. So it doesn't matter to. So somebody recently said to me that we are working with different kinds of children now. I said no. Children are children. The setting doesn't determine how you must react to them. The setting is that how do I apply the knowledge I have differently to suit the setting.
Now, when you're talking like this, do you think that there's ways in which we should be training child and youth care workers? Now, because you just now referred to your training, and that actually work, and maybe you can just talk a little bit about at auxiliary level and then at professional level, because those are two very different contexts where we're training people in different contexts.
About this is I think in one of our training, I think it's when they talk about the Montessori model, and that just helped me. But they say that children come in as clean slates. There's nothing written on them, they are empty, so you have to write into their DNA what they're going to be and how they're going to become. And you know, one of the things that we have a disadvantage at in child care work is that people has already been exposed to practices that doesn't line up to the work that we want them to do. So when they come into training, they already have a concept of what child care work is.
At both auxiliary and professional.
I'm talking about this already now.
Okay. I just want to clarify it. Yeah.
So now they come into training and they have a concept of what child and youth care work is, because they've been exposed now to a practice that doesn't line up with our scope of practice, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm speaking of personal experience as well. When I came into child youth care work, I didn't have any training. And so my DNA was written by what I experienced and how I responded to that. And so when training came around, I had to sort of, not measure, I had to compare this that I've been doing to what I've been told to do now. And because this what I've been doing was comfortable for me to be doing it, the training didn't matter. Because I was just went for training, I had to go for training. So the training didn't really matter because I know this is what I've been doing, and this actually, I cannot trust that until I have, because I've got this. So the first thing for us in the field is say, how do we make sure that people come in and we actually write, I want to use this word again, the DNA of child youth care work into them. So when they go to the field, they have this understanding of what I can expect in the field. So now I have had this knowledge I've gained over a year or two of working without any kind of training. And now this training came along. And so again, I had to measure up the two. Which do I feel comfortable? And again, Merle, as a child youth care worker at that stage, I had to make a distinct choice. To say, am I going to take what I've been taught, or am I going to go under what I was doing? Which one is more beneficial? And so I took parts to change my DNA. I had to slowly take parts of what I was training and infiltrate it into my thinking and change the way I was practicing. And when I begin to see it's working, I took the whole to implement the whole.
Okay, it's perfect. I mean, it's beautifully put.
So that is how I, at that level. When I went to study, when I went to do my diploma through UNISA, I remember that we were sitting one day, because I had quite a few other colleagues who were studying with me. And we were sitting one day and I said to my colleagues, you know what? It's no use, the four of us, because there were four of us. I said, it's no use the four of us are busy to complete a diploma in child youth care work, yet our practice as child youth care workers remain at the auxiliary level. It's our responsibility to lift up the standard of care that we provide to children. Even though we weren't recognized as professionals and auxiliary, but because we were in formal studying, I said to them, our practice, how we practice child youth care workers must be distinctive from people who don't have the qualification. I didn't boastful, but they don't have the qualification that we are having, or the exposure to knowledge that we are having. Otherwise, the knowledge that we are gaining as tertiary students is of no value to other people, and other people won't aspire to be able to get to that level of training. So it's a process, but again, it's about a process. You start internal to say, okay, this is what I know, this is what I've been taught, and how do I unlearn what I already know to implement the new things.
Yeah. There's so much to say, Alfred. You're leaving with too many options to ask questions. I want to ask them all at the same time. And did you find from the training that you were able to actually show that distinction? Did you find that you were able to, in a sense, stand out from the crowd? You were able to implement at a level that showed that you were able to integrate that new knowledge and function at that higher level?
If I must give you the short answer, Mo, I can only tell you on what the children that I worked with said. Remember, I worked shifts. And so when my shift ended, I used to do a checkout with the children. You know, we just have to do a little evaluation. And the question that always used to come out from them is, meneer, wanneer sê jy terug by die week? And then I wanted to interrogate after the second time the question came out. I wanted to know, why are you saying that? And the answer was like, when you are here, we feel cared for and protected. And that answer tells me that the way I applied my knowledge made a difference in the lives of those young people, because they look forward to me coming on shift because they know that there's value in what they're going to do. And that doesn't mean there was a free for all. They understood what had to happen, and they felt comfortable in order to know that no matter who I am, I'm safe in this environment. So that's the answer I can give you.
And you think that was at a higher level than when you were at an auxiliary?
Much more.
Is it?
Much more to the, you know, Mo, I can remember that when when we were trained from the beginning, we were trained to do IDPs and to develop IDPs and to review all those things. The environment was never created for us to do that. I would not say that because that sounds like people didn't care. But we never, that was never a thing that was driven home to say, each child here must have an IDP. We must review the IDP everything. There was never that urgency. Like you will be at the orientation and intake, we will develop a basic IDP for the child, but that basic IDP will remain the basic IDP.
Yeah.
All right. After I completed my diploma, I re-looked at that. And I said, but what value does it have for a child to have an IDP that was developed for him when he came here 6 months ago? He doesn't know how far he's grown. He doesn't know where he is going to. Remember, even though they were tired waiting, he doesn't know where he's going to. So at least you can help that young person to develop a small little manageable plan that is in their control. And also for them to understand the value of having an IDP, because it gives you an idea of where it is you are going to. So I literally sat down with each and every boy that was in my care. And I mean, I worked at other two colleges. This for them wasn't important. This was really important for them to do this kind of work. For them, to just come to work and I'm here, I've got my sideline and whatever. And so I literally sat down with each and every boy and we developed a simple plan on what they have had to look at what's the next level. But we didn't, so I understood the fact that you can't overload somebody, but you must keep the thing interesting for them in their control, something they can control. So I would develop stuff like helping them manage their behavior better, just looking at one incident, just looking at one thing that they think they want to control. And also the work then became more purposeful for me and for them, because they begin to understood the fact that I am in control of my life, and I don't need anybody else to control me of what I want to be. So those are the kind of things that so what I'm trying to say is that I took the basic and I added something on top of that, but it is still the same thing, but it's on a different level. And then boys would actually come to me and ask me. It's amazing. It's amazing. I think about it now. Boys would actually come and ask me afterwards, meneer, hoe doen ek? Vorder ek? Is dat verbetering? Those kind of things. Boys wanted to know about it. Are they growing and developing? Because the environment was created for them where they can become who they think they should be. You know, I mean, I had a boy who one day came to me and said to me, he doesn't see the need to go to school. And you know, I said to him, okay, so what is your future plans? What is your future? What do you want to become? And he said to me, he wants to become the biggest drug merchant in Western Cape. I said to him, interesting. It's an interesting choice. So tell me about your business model. Explain to me your business model. And he explained to me his business model. He's going to have houses here, houses there. He's going to have people selling here, people selling there. Also, you had a big operation. He said to me, yes. Which means that you have to know mathematics. Because if you don't know mathematics, then people are going to rob you blind. En you know what that boy said to me? Meneer is reg, dat is school te gaan. And he went to school. You see, if I had to oppose this idea what he wanted to become, my idea was for him to get education. And hopefully through the education he might want to become a scientist or a doctor or whatever, and not a merchant. That was my intention. But if I had to go to him and that said to him, but if you become a merchant, you can go to prison and all that. He wasn't interested in that. That wasn't his thing was that he wanted to know that there is a future for him. No matter what the future was. And so that kind of thing is not what you just pick up in a textbook. It is how you use the knowledge you have. Because then I could ask the boy, how's school going? He didn't miss a school day after that because he had direction in where he wanted to be.
You could spend the whole day just looking at that. Hey? The whole day. There's so much in that interaction, isn't it? Yeah. If you're saying like people, come in with their DNA already sort of built up, and that in a way the training has to change some of that. If we look at like where we all want to go to, that people come out of school, go into university, and then become child and youth care workers. But a lot of those child and youth care workers are being exposed to practice that we might not think is ideal, So how do we also make sure we are not building the wrong DNA with those people?
First of all, when we look at legislation, so this act is got norms and standards that says how a child care center should function and operate. That's just one part of that I'm going to come to it later. The first part I want to say is that one of the things that I spoke earlier about is to say that our work is relational with children. But there's one part of relationships. What we also have to have is a good structure of supervision and mentoring. Now I know that the current training that is being rolled out does include a mentoring component where people have to be mentored through the work and all that. I think we need to strengthen the mentoring more than the supervision. And then mentors and supervisors will be different people. Because if I am coming into an environment where my supervisor has been and he is too close to the action so he cannot see what is wrong here, then I need to have somebody else that can actually help me think through these things. So the first thing is that when we apply our norms and standards to say this is how a child care center should be running, ideally we should have this is the kind of program running, this is expertise. So if we have that in place, then the mentoring supervision will be easier. Where we come in, while you were asking the question, it just bounced on me. I wonder how successful the training was when people in our old reform schools and school of industry been working there for years, and NCW came in and trained them what value did that add to the children and what, because they've been there for 30 years, so their DNA, they were not worried about what you trained, what you said, this is how we do it and it's not going to work. So that for me was actually, as well as I was thinking to myself, thinking about the DNA being written, those people's DNA has been there for 30 years and they're not going to change easily. But the environment that's created at the facilities must be regulated through our regulations and through the legislation that is in place, which means that government, as the entity responsible for implementing legislation, has to design a different way of how do we monitor the services to our children, particularly in this case in our child care centers, to make sure that the application of norms and standards is in place, so that when people come in, it's just all right. If I think of me coming into Bonnyton as a 25-year-old, having no exposure to this field, I was exposed to horrendous practices that gave me an insight into the kind of work. And when we were trained, I was measuring what I did to what I now was taught, and it didn't measure up. There was no correlation between anything. So I don't make a decision. So the other thing also more, apart from the environment, and it might not be true in all senses, but as a child worker, you also create your own environment within the environment that you are in. You know, one of the people that I worked with, and because I apply the developmental approach in the work that we do, I mean, he one day said to a child in my presence, not even behind my back, in my presence, said to a child, meneer Harris, kan ek vir jou leer van jou regte, maar ek moer vir jou. You see, so, but they didn't take away from what I know I have to do.
Yeah.
So children find themselves in that space all the time.
Yeah.
But if they're not convinced that what I know and what training will help what I want to do, then they will continue to do what they want.
So how do we make sure that, like for instance, in young people coming through, going training and going into education, learning all this stuff, then they go out to child and youth care centers or they go out to community place and they see not what they've been reading about, not what they've been taught happening. Yeah. How do we make sure this training is actually going to be working?
It adds value to the services that young people receive. That's what you. Yeah. Well, the only thing that I can think of now, and I might think this through again, but the only thing I can think of now is that we need to have a good support structure in place for child workers. First of all,
for student child
yes, we have to have a good, because even now when we're developing the curriculum with UWC, lots of the work is going to be practical work. Lots of people are going to go out, identify so you can send to where they're going to be. And when we were designing that and thinking about you saying now, I said that will concern me, because childcare workers or learner childcare workers is going to be exposed to things that they are not going to see. And maybe this is a negative point I want to make, but when I look at what I hear from my social work colleagues who's studying, there's been they experience the same thing, that there's no correlation between what it is that I'm being taught at university and when I go to my practice is two total different worlds. Now I'm talking about basic work. I'm not talking about CD, I'm talking about basic work. How to open a file, how to do those basic stuff that social workers do. That's always in place. So what we have to do, the second thing what we have to do is remember that when we go into the phase of identifying places where people can be placed, as the leaders in the field, we need to make sure that that place is conducive to receive student childcare workers. And that's a process that maybe it's out of our hands, but it's something we have to endeavor to do so we can.
So we're saying two things. You're saying actually good supervision and mentoring, and then actually trying to make sure that the environment is as conducive as possible.
As conducive as possible, which is not going to be. I don't know where that responsibility lies. Because I mean we have to learn from other professions to see how do they identify placement agencies for their professionals. And then maybe learn from them and see how they do it. Is there a normal standard that they use? How do they, or they just place people out to say, you choose where you want to go, and then you go there, and then with every experience. So I think we have to think about that one. How do we do that? But for me, you have to make sure that the environment is conducive for people to learn.
Alfred, if you were to make changes to like the way child and youth care workers are trained now at auxiliary and then at professional level, is there anything else apart from what you're saying now about that mentoring and so on that you would introduce, that you would think needs to be in place? I mean, at any level actually, whether we're talking curriculum, whether we're talking about the style of delivery, or anything.
One of the things I think let me say. The first thing we must start is we need to get the right people in to train.
Yeah.
No matter at which level, we need to get the right people into train to make sure that
What are the right people?
the right people for me is people who's either in this field. It must be people who's you cannot say that I can become a good social work trainer if I've never ever done social work. I can be working along the social workers, but if I've never done social work, I will never be able to become a good social work teacher. So I've never done this practical experience. So I cannot. I think one of the things that is important, I'm going to come to one of the things important about helping child youth understand child and youth care training is to relate your own stories to them, because you've been there. So the first thing for me is it must be people who's been exposed. So what the field must decide, if you have X amount of practical qualification with so many years of working, you can train at this level. If you have been in the field for so long and you've got this qualification, train at that level. So that we can know that we get the right people with the right qualifications in to train these young. But remember that, like I said earlier, those who will be training them will be writing a child and youth care DNA in them. And that must be accurately written, or as accurate as possible. Because we're all learning different styles, we all hear different things. So, but it must be as accurate. So that's the first thing I will see is that we need to make sure that the people. Then the second thing about this, that we need to make sure that the people who are training are students in the field. Because you cannot remain sharp if you are not continuously developing yourself. Because just daily there are new knowledge, new media. So you have to keep yourself up to date with the latest development. So it might be somebody who's got a good understanding of the field, but also has got a desire to want to learn more about this field. Because you never can say, I know too much. So the first thing is people with qualifications, and number two, people who keep themselves abreast with the latest development and being maybe involved in continuous research would be for me the important thing that I want to change. But the content can fluctuate in terms of what it is, what are the processes that obviously content must keep in tune with what the legislation is saying. The legislation changes, we have to see how there's a content, how's content affected by the legislation. If it needs to be adjusted, you have to be adjusted.
And you're talking both at
professional
both
and at both levels, yeah. Because even if you are going to be training owners or workers, and again, well, it will be ideal if we can say that the perfect scenario would be people with a master's degree trained at both levels. That's what we would because you're setting a very high bar, and you're also giving people who are coming in, even as a level, a hope to say, I want to aspire to be a master's student or a PhD student, as you're going to be soon.
Yeah, it's so interesting, him. Yeah. And just going back to, if you don't mind, a little bit, and I know we must round up, but the nature of South African child and youth care work, it's been based on what we've learned from overseas, but do you think it has some local flavor? Do you think there's something about South Africa that's different?
How much time do you have? Well, fortunately and unfortunately, fortunately we have contacts with people outside of Africa who has written and developed training material that's applicable to child youth care work. That's a fortunate part. The unfortunate thing is that as in Africa we haven't yet begun to design indigenous child and youth care, besides the Bindi model. But in terms of our residential care programs, it's still based on overseas models. We haven't designed indigenous South African residential care models. I think we need to move towards that. I'm not saying it's throw the baby out of the bathwater, but what we have, circle of courage, that is important stuff that is part of the development of the field of child and youth care work. But as South Africa, we need to build on that. What is our model of care that we have that we can shout to the world and say, this is our model of care that we want to shout to you in terms of, because we've learned from Australia, we've learned from New Zealand, we've learned from America, we've learned from Canada. Now what is it that we want to design in our own unique way that is South African, that we can go and say, after you've taught us, this is what we... So I would say that some of the work we need to do is how do we indigenize our child in youth care practice. Isibindi is one model, but I think that there are many other models of care that we can develop that will help and promote child youth care work in our country and also in the world. But you have to sit down and look at what is it that you have to develop. You must just go into develop stuff because you want to develop stuff, but you have to be clear in what it is you want to develop.
And I mean, you know, the Isibindi model, for instance, you've given it that as an example. Is there aspects of the Isibindi model that you see as being, in a sense, uniquely South African?
Well, the name, the name itself is the African name. The way, I think, what the understanding for me is that there are so many needs due to the high level of HIV/AIDS, poverty, unemployment, where children are in vulnerable situations, where government won't be able to provide a residential care program for them, but we can care for them in their homes. And I mean, we all know that that is the uniqueness of the model, is that it is in the community, almost run by the community, for the community, and children are cared for by people that they essentially know. So you know, Mel, I want to say to you, know, when I think about this Isibindi model, there was a time when we were at Bonington, and we discovered that there was a high number of children coming into our facility from one particular community. And our manager that time was Esiteron, and we went to him and said to him, you know what, we are concerned as child care workers, and you know, this was as child care workers, we are concerned about this high number of children from this community coming into our care. There might be something wrong in that community. Why can't we as child care workers go and investigate what is wrong and engage the community to find out why are we finding so many children coming from your area into our facility? Because that's about, you can say about 20 to 30% of the children at Bonington was from a Nova Park, and we say, but there was something that must be wrong in Nova Park that you're just dumping children here, so let us go and find out. Well, I think it was too forward-thinking. It was too forward-thinking for SE at that stage, and he said to us, guys, let us concentrate on what we have to do here. This is what he mentioned. So there was that understanding that what you want to do is, we cannot be waiting for, and this is what we need to do, we cannot wait for children to end up at Bonington, but we want to go and see what can we build in our communities to prevent them from coming here, because we don't want them here. But I mean, that's too futuristic for us at that stage.
Yeah. And do you think that there's particular aspects of the child youth care practice that you see in Isibindi that is different?
Well, the first thing for me is the fact that we engage with families. I think when children are in care, we engage with them most of the time. We don't engage with the families. Here with Isibindi, we engage with families. First, families and the children. We don't just engage. So that's for me is different. That for me is unique in many aspects. Maybe if a child is in an ECD center, then you know family play. But with this model, because it's a vulnerable child, we engage the family from day one. They're part of the process from day one, which is different. And if we think the uniqueness of the Western Cape, I mean, the thing that I spoke yesterday at the church, and I just realized yesterday that during 2018, all the children who were killed in 2018 were killed by somebody that's familiar to them. All the children in Western Cape was killed by somebody that's familiar to them, which means they didn't expect this person to do this for them, you know. And that again for me is the issue that what is not happening. There's that level of community engagement is lacking, and that gives rise to other ills in a society where people think that I can do this and do that. Because nobody is holding me accountable. Nobody's here to protect these vulnerable children.
But can I take you back to the practice? You know, the what is it about the practice?
Well, you know, if I think of Isibindi, and I mean it's not only in Isibindi, but for me, the whole thing of our work, and I cannot emphasize this enough, it is about relationships. I mean, I cannot that for me is the basis of our work, and it's just something that I want to get into the heads of people. It doesn't matter. Each and every child wants to relate to one person. And Martin Broken Legs, I should say, each and every child wants to have somebody's crazy about them.
Yeah.
I mean, children want somebody who really believes in them, no matter what. That they know that that person is always not agree with all their wrong, but know that you know what is good in you.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the things that resilience research has also discovered. The children who are resilient, there's someone that they know they can go and rely on. There's somebody in their lives that they know, if I go to this person now, they're going to listen to me. They're not going to judge me. They listen to me.
And are you saying that you feel like our South African child and youth care workers can do that for children? Is that what you're saying?
We have to. Mel, there's no other way. For me, there's no other way in working with young people, vulnerable young people.
Yeah.
Then other than everyone listens with them.
But
now,
they do that, you think?
Let me just say to you, one of the things that, and this is not new to you, Mel. One of the things that is that I think child care workers misunderstand in the practice is the issue of trust. It's the issue of trust, and I've seen this I've seen this over the years in many child care workers. Is that they will say that children don't trust me, and my question to them is, why must they trust you? Give me a reason why they must trust you. And this was so eloquently put to as a novice child care worker. This was so eloquently put to me one day by a man called Ashley Theron. I always say to him, why did he do this to me? And a child was very rude to me one day, and I was very upset about that. I was like very upset about it. And I went to Ashley, listen here, you want us to respect your children, but look at what happened here now. And he burst out laughing. And I'm like, but you're laughing. The child was just rude to me. He laughed. He laughed for about 2 minutes, he laughed. And he took me to his office to me, sit down. And he said to me, you know what? We understand one thing. He said, that child is not rude to you as Alfred Harris. He's rude to the adult in you. Because adults has been damaging that child through making promises, through using the child. So the child sees every adult as that adult. So you have to allow that child to trust you. So what child workers do is they force children to trust him. One of the things that I always say to child care workers, you cannot tell a young person when he comes to the first day into your facility and you do his orientation, tell him, you can trust me. Don't say that to children. You cannot say that. Trust is something that is earned.
Yeah. And
in my practice as a child care worker, I used to tell children this, please don't trust me. Please don't trust me. I might disappoint you, so please don't trust me. You only trust me when you feel comfortable. When you feel comfortable, you trust me, but don't trust me. Because I don't want to disappoint you again. And so then when child care workers don't get the respect that they think they must get from children, then they are disappointed. And I said, you're not the first adult that they're going to disappoint. There's going to be many other adults they're going to disappoint. But you as a child care worker must be consistent in what it is you say, what it is you do, and that is how you win the trust.
I'm just going to take you back to Isibindi now. Do you see anything when in the I mean you're talking about this relational thing, and I'm just trying to understand that a little bit deeper. And you talk about the relational thing as being South African, and you talked about the Isibindi model as being maybe the only thing that we've kind of come up with as uniquely ours in a way. But just in terms of your familiarity with the Isibindi child and youth care workers, and what many of them have been able to achieve. What do you think? Why is that? How is it that they've been able to? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Yes. That they've been able to achieve. Maybe you don't believe that.
No. I mean, I've evidence to say that how the child care workers have changed lives of young people who has had no hope and now had hope. And remember more that when we engage with young people at community level, through this opinion model or any other model, it is people who's lost hope in society, who feel they're living in an uncaring world where nobody cares for them, everybody's out there to get them. And they're always going to lose out because we are children, so children mustn't have anything in life. Now this model, for me, the second thing about the relationship is about consistency. It's consistency. Now if you see somebody, remember that the relationship starts off with, and I was thinking about it the other day, this morning actually, I saw somebody and I thought about this whole thing about building rapport. The thing of building rapport with people. I like how Gina always used to explain building rapport to the classes,
Mm-hmm.
And so when child come to a house, the first time, the family and the children will look at them suspiciously. There's another person who is coming to do what? So what are they coming to do? No, I want to work. So we're looking at, they've been looked at suspiciously.
Mm.
But your consistent engagement with the family begins to build that trust and relationships. If people can see, okay, we can begin to trust you. And you know what happens? It's again we're talking because sometimes is that when somebody begins to trust you, the behavior that they really are, the testing behavior comes up because they want to see how far can I trust you. And so if once you get past that initial tantrum, I'll call it tantrum throwing, and the people say, but you're still coming back. We saw it yesterday. We slammed the door in your face, but you're still here today. There must be something special about you. So we're going to allow you into our lives now. And then it's up to you now to use that space, that opportunity to build onto what you have already built onto. Because even if you experience that initial engagement as negative, it was the family, the child testing your resilience to be able to work with them. Or are you going to drop us like everybody else will be dropping us in this community or wherever we find ourselves? So it is a consistency. For me, it is a way that they go back every day. They are there with the family. They listen to what the family is saying. They engage the family. They're beginning to build, as a relationship develops, they're beginning to build the structures with the family. They help the family.
Yeah, very interesting. Hey, Alfred, I think that we could carry on talking. We're talking about an hour and a half already.
Sure.
But maybe I could take a rain check, and maybe if I need to speak to you again, I could call you in. Is that a possibility?
That's fine, Mel.
Because I think there's a lot that you said, and I know that once I write this down, it's going to be like 20, 30 pages, and there's a lot in it that's very rich, and I might want to pick more up now once I've thought about certain things, Yeah.
No, don't be shy to. Don't be shy to.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else about the topic that you. I mean, I know we could talk about child and youth care work for the rest of the evening, even with or without coffee. But is there anything else about this topic that I'm talking about that you feel that you want to share?
If I can just add the last thing, Mel, I'm so glad that your thesis is looking at developing a model for education. And I think it is so critical where the field is at and the developments that are still going to be coming out of child youth care work in South Africa. And so all I want to say is that the and I know this isn't the model that I know, that you didn't do stuff just to get a bit of paper, but you're actually doing stuff to contribute to the development of the field. And I wish that, and I hope that this time you spend writing this thesis and the energy is going to be so fruitful that it's going to help and move the field to where the field should be, and really elevate the standard practice that we have in our country. And my dream for child youth care work, my personal dream, is in the next 10 years in South Africa, we will only have professional child youth care workers working at different levels of the society. Doesn't have to be you don't have to have a degree to work in a CB. I mean, don't have to be an auxiliary worker to work in a CBND. You can have a qualification as a professional social worker. Work in for me, it doesn't matter your qualifications. For me, it matters the contribution you can make. But my idea for the field is that we will only have professional people because people feel that there's so much that they want to do in the field, but the way to do that, one way, is to get the best qualification you can have. So that this paper is going to contribute towards that. So, and I'm available to speak to you anytime.
Thank you, Alfred. Thank you. It's very interesting, really.